Today's word is stupendous.
You need some encouragement.
We really love listening to you guys.
You need some inspiration.
Love your podcast. Wonderfully inspiring as I think about my marriage.
Stupendous marriage encouragement.
You're listening to the Stupendous Marriage Show.
Hey there, welcome to the Stupendous Marriage Show. I'm Stu Gray.
Hey, I'm Lisa Gray.
This is a show where we answer marriage questions. You send them our way if you have a question about marriage at onair@stupendousmarriage.com. I just want to get that out there, make it clear.
In case somebody didn't understand you.
Yes, you can also text them to us, 1-615-592-1060. And another way is you can send us an email via the big blue button at stupendousmarriage.com.
Hey, babe, how you doing?
I'm good.
It was your birthday over the weekend.
It was. It was a
So
good
exciting.
day. Yay.
You are just not a birthday person, are you?
I think of myself as a birthday person, but when it happens, it's like, there's always something going on my birthday. So this birthday was Destination Imagination. Our child was at the state competition all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really wasn't about me. So that's good.
Which you actually had fun because you did the escape room with the kids.
I
and
did.
You
was
did
fun.
several things with the kids that I didn't do. So
Yeah.
you had a good time.
I
But
did.
yeah. And also, I think it has to do with age.
Yes.
The older you get.
Another year around the sun. Here we go.
Well, and I just think the older we get, it's like, oh, okay, it's moving quickly. Maybe we don't want to talk about it.
I know we're already in April this year. It's crazy that just where does time go?
So what are you doing tonight for your birthday?
Okay, so this is random. All right, so I'm on Instagram flipping around last week sometime, and I follow Paul Stanley, who is the lead singer for Kiss.
Now, which one is he?
Paul was Star Child.
Okay.
Okay, and if you don't know who Kiss is, they're the band who wears white makeup, and Paul is the guy with the big star, and Gene Simmons was the demon, and the original four was Ace Frehley, who was Spaceman, and then Peter Criss was the cat. Okay, this was their makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Peter and Ace are no longer in the band. Okay, that's a little history of Kiss. But I'm flipping through Instagram and I see Paul Stanley saying, hey, it's, end of the road tour and tonight we're in XYZ city. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they were coming to Nashville sometime?
Mm-hmm.
And I just hopped online. I was looking, I was like, oh, they're coming right after my birthday next week. I was like, that would be kind of fun. The first two albums I ever owned in my life when I was a child were Paul Stanley's solo album,
Mm-hmm.
and then Destroyer, which was a Kiss album, and so I would play those nonstop on my little red plastic record player. And I remember going into the mall with a babysitter
Mm-hmm.
and seeing all of the solo albums sitting at the record store.
Oh,
And
gosh,
I
that's
wanted,
so funny.
I have, it's a vivid memory to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I selected Paul's solo album and I played it nonstop. So this is just like sentimental for me. I'm like, it'd be kind of fun to go see them. They're supposed to have a great show.
And when you mentioned it to me, I was like, what? You like Kiss?
Not really.
I know
but
you like music, like
Yeah.
you like lots of different kinds of music.
Yeah.
That just wasn't, we're not big concert goers. So
No.
for you to say, hey, it would be really neat for me for my birthday to go to the Kiss concert, I was like, what are you talking about? And then the automatic thing is, you're going to go with me, right? I mean, you didn't say it, but I kind of like, let's go. And I quickly was like, oh yeah, I really wouldn't have any desire
yeah,
to
no,
go to that.
No, don't want to see them at all.
So let's find a friend. And that's actually, you know what, babe? That sounds like a guy date. I
It
mean, that
does,
just
yeah.
sounds like a time
It's so
that
funny.
guys could go hang together, be men, hear heavy metal, and see spiky hair. Now, do they still wear the makeup?
Men in leather, yes.
Yes, exactly,
And-
exactly. Well, and what I remember of Kiss is they always scare me. Like, I always felt like they were evil because they just looked
scary.
They
have a really bad rap, especially Gene Simmons, who is the demon, right? And some of their music can be scary. Their stage show was scary.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that as a kid, and yet they had people in faith-based circles call them knights in Satan's service and all this sort of stuff.
Gosh.
But the thing is, just the history of Kiss.
Yeah.
Two Jewish boys started this band, and they wanted to put on the best show that they possibly could because they were going to all these shows and nobody did a good show. So how could they stand out? So they started wearing makeup and they developed these characters. And Gene Simmons is a brilliant businessman.
Mm-hmm.
No, their music is not great,
right,
but it's super catchy.
Yeah.
And it's, so, I mean, I could go on and on about like Kiss, but it's, musically it's not great, but their show is supposed to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I never saw them growing up.
Well, and I'm excited for that. I actually did think about it for a whole minute. I was like, oh man, I bet they put on a great show.
Right.
And then I'm like, I just, again, think it's something for guys to go do together, and it'll be a great memory for you and your friend that are going. And I was really glad that you said, hey, this is something I would love to do for my birthday, because we got you some stuff, but it was all just little stuff. Yeah. And so knowing that you're getting to do something really cool and fun for your birthday, it makes me very happy.
I'll have to report back and tell you how the show was.
Yes, exactly.
We got our email coming up. Here's our email for this week. I was recently married. Both of us are previously married. We're in our mid-40s. When she was married before, her ex traveled for work. He met another woman while traveling and cheated on my wife for 2 years without her knowledge. Needless to say, it ended in divorce. So my wife has a bitter taste in her mouth regarding any type of travel. I'm in a gig where sometimes I may have to travel. Before I took my job, I turned down several offers because of traveling, as to not upset my new wife. This job almost has none. During my interview process, I was told there'd be minimal travel, and I told my wife this. I've been employed for 4 months and have traveled overnight once and had 3 day trips where I left at 7 and was back by 5 p.m. the same day. My wife has expressed her feelings regarding me having to travel, and I understand her feelings. She told me before we got married that if I liked to travel, she didn't want any part of it. The fact is, I do not like to travel. Recently, I was told by my director at work that I needed to fly to another city for a meeting. I left at 7:15 a.m., was home by 5 p.m. My wife was angry. I even changed my flight to be home sooner, and she didn't care. She was really angry at me, telling me that I lied to her about the travel for this company, and that, again, if I like to travel, I need to reconsider our marriage. I left, went upstairs to bed. I feel like I'm being pulled in different directions. She wants me to go to my HR department, tell them that I'm not going to travel anymore. This is not a good job move. I feel like I'm being controlled too much. Can you give me your input? Thanks.
I really agree with him. There's something bigger going on here. There's the 10,000-foot view that I'm not sure anybody has thought about. She needs to go to counseling. She needs to process through the fact that she is fearful and she is not able to trust her husband, not because of anything he has done, but because of what somebody else did previously. And that having nothing to do with any job, right, in any specific travel, that is not good for her. That cannot be good for her to carry that fear and that anxiousness. She's got to process through it, because it is not fair for her to take out on him what somebody else did. And I love the fact that he has been so honoring through this process and encouraging and really supporting her and trying to find a job that doesn't require any travel. But at the end of the day, why would anybody want to live with that much fear in their life about your spouse going on a job trip or going somewhere like that? Just, that makes my heart hurt for her.
At the end of the day, you can't control people, places, or things. And the choices that someone else made, her ex-husband, unfortunately are overshadowing this new marriage. What we don't know is how long did they date? How long did their engagement go? Mm-hmm. My question is, has there been enough time in this new relationship that is now a marriage to build up some sort of trust?
Right.
And it seems like there hasn't been a lot of that time. I don't know how quickly you got into marriage. You obviously can't take back that decision. But now going forward, you've got to figure out a way to build trust with your wife And yeah, I totally agree with you, Lisa. I think there is some issue on her side that she needs to work through. And I mean, you're in this job. You've got to make a decision now. There are several decisions here that you can make. Can she travel with you?
Yeah, I actually thought about that. I was like, man, you guys could really have fun with it.
Right. Can you work with your HR department if it's only going to be minimal travel to make them like week-long trips or weekend-long trips where then she can go and not one-off day trips places?
Right.
So that might be an option. Another option might be talking with her, obviously, about this is super important while she's working through her own stuff. Would traveling with another male help her offset her fear? If two of you are going and she knows that person and she knows you obviously as her husband, will that help her feel more secure in the time that you are away while she's processing through her hurt feelings and anxiety and fear that she obviously has?
We talked a couple weeks ago about teamwork, and one of the big philosophies that we have in our marriage and we encourage others is changing your perspective from allowing something to be in between you and your spouse. And that's exactly this fear. I can kind of imagine it as this monster standing between you and her. And every time that she looks at you in regards to you having to travel, this fear gets in the way and causes her to think that you're going to make really poor choices. And so instead of you guys allowing this thing to be between you, because she's almost blaming you because she doesn't trust you when you travel, even though you haven't done anything.
Well, and she's not even not trusting him. She's not trusting her ex-husband,
right,
which is overshadowing this man.
Exactly. And so can you change your position and come along beside her and say, hey, look, babe, I love you. I'm happy to go take a job at Walmart that doesn't require travel. But at the end of the day, I want something better for you, which is I want you to break free from this fear and this anxiety that you have about me traveling at all. And how do I stand beside you and really point to that monster and go, okay, you need to get away from my wife. You need to stop and figure out solutions like her traveling with you, like some type of accountability. What can you put in place together as a couple that it can build her trust up and really allow her to heal, to see not every man is like her ex-husband.
Right. And the best way to go through fear is to go through it. Unfortunately for her, that means he's going to be traveling if they decide to go through that. I mean, how can you check in with her? Can you call her during the day? Can you email her during the day? Can you FaceTime her during the day? Can you show that you're being trustworthy in little ways when you're not traveling? You haven't filled up that trust bucket yet. You guys haven't been together long enough to have that trust built up over time. And so she's coming with a deficit of trust. And so she's in the negative area, and you've got to fill up, unfortunately, some of that is emotional baggage from a previous relationship, again, that she's got to go through. How do you make deposits of trust that help her and then keep doing that over and over? Because you're right, you can't just avoid fear. You can't just avoid these things. Then another option, if you want to think about other options, is if you're good at your job, can you renegotiate your travel? Can you find another job in your industry that doesn't require travel? Those are two other options.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of all options.
Yeah.
Not all of them are great, but they're all just options that you can consider. But you have to figure out, man, if you leave that job, are you just stunting your wife's growth? That doesn't seem healthy, because you do feel controlled. So there'll probably be resentment there.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. This is a tough dance. I mean, it is something that you're definitely going to have to work through together.
And again, I think it's all about positioning of, hey, I'm for you. I love you. I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. There is something bigger happening here than me just taking an overnight trip. This is something that has a hold of you, that is continuing to cause fear in your life. So how do we stand together as husband and wife and battle this thing? And I think if you guys can do that and you can get to the other side, you're going to be so much stronger in your marriage than you thought you ever would be.
here's me preaching to myself. Okay. Fear is ultimately a lack of trust in God. Is God going to take care of it? Is he going to care for you? Is he going to care for your wife? Is he going to ultimately be a good God like the Bible says he is? If he is, then we shouldn't fear about what happens or what could possibly happen in a marriage or in a situation. That's easier said than done, but really giving it to God and say, hey, God, change me in this area and show me how to have less fear and show us the direction we need to go in as a couple. We said this as a last option here in our podcast, but it probably should be the first option in your marriage. You really should go to him first and ask for direction, pray together, seek his counsel and wisdom and guidance, and really then work on it together. So thank you so much for this email. Hopefully our thoughts were encouraging to you, and it sounds like you got some work to do.
If you have a question for your marriage, you can email us on air at stupendousmarriage.com or go to the website and push the big blue button.
And we will talk to you next time.
See ya!